So with claims, sometimes I get asked, well, how involved or uninvolved are you in the claims process? And this is going to be, I think, ultimately a personal decision. For me, I never admittedly was that involved with handling the claims aspect of people passing away. What I found many times is when people died, I would always say, hey, you can always call me. I'm here to help you. God forbid when the day comes and you need help, just leave my information, have people call me. I always used to say that at the end of my sales presentation. But what I found is the vast majority of people wouldn't. They would just call the company directly. So for me, I don't really get involved much in the claims process. I let the companies handle it. Used to be back in the day, you could have the check mailed to the agent could deliver the check. I don't know what to the extent that these carriers allow that anymore. I've just never done that. But so for me, I'm not very involved in the claims process. Where I might get more involved in the claims process, and this is rare that this happens, but where I might get more involved with is when the client dies within the first 2 years, whether it's a guaranteed issue plan or a level plan, because there's more at stake here, I guess you could say. First of all, the beneficiary may not realize that if they have a guaranteed issue plan, the client's not fully covered, so they're only getting their money back plus interest. So those are the instances where I might call and say, hey, my condolences. I just wanted to call and give you an explanation of what to expect. The other way I would handle this is if somebody died within the first 2 years and their claim is contested, I will get in front of that because it can be a very frustrating period of time to wait until a death claim happens and try to handle the expectations of the client. And let them know this is what happens with every policy, that if you die within the first 2 years, the company is going to go through a process of contesting the claim, meaning they're going to pull additional records to make sure that the claim should be paid for in case there was something they missed, is essentially what I describe it as. And I tell them it'll pay if everything checks out. But this is a multi-month process, and it's imperative that you answer the requirements that the insurance company has, because the carriers will send out paperwork that essentially says, you got to get records from these particular doctors, and you need to send it to us because this is required to legitimize the claim if it should in fact be paid. You may be wondering, if you're new here, well, wait a minute, they got approved. Doesn't that mean they're going to get a payout? Well, sometimes the information that is on what's called the Medical Information Bureau or the prescription check information is not up to date or is inaccurate. And if they die too soon, what they expected to be a longer life, then there could be what we call adverse selection at play, or maybe some misrepresentation, whether it's purposeful or not. And so the carriers do this as a risk deterrent to protect other policyholders who maybe represented things correctly. For example, I had a gentleman early in my career who he was in perfect shape, supposedly, and he died 15 days into the plan. And I think it turned out he had cancer the whole time. He just, for some reason, wasn't reported on the records, right? So this stuff does happen where people try to scam the system, okay? And so these restrictions on payouts for the first 3 years, even if it's level, is good for the whole. It is meant to keep the integrity of the insurance system intact. Otherwise, people can go in and really take advantage and everybody gets harmed. Okay. So, and a couple of things on that, like staying in front of this and being interactive. So I sold a client down in Somerville, Georgia. I sold her fiance. He was a mechanic, had COPD, otherwise healthy, and a smoker. Maybe not perfectly healthy, but at the time, he was in pretty good shape. Got him approved. Oh, yes, I wrote that. Stupid company. And a year went by, and I found out he died. His fiance, Darlene, I think her name was, called me and was upset. He had died, of course, not by COPD, but he was getting a colonoscopy, and the doc knifed his gut, his colon, and he bled out internally, septic, just terrible death, painful. And he died. And contested it. And I told her, I said, hey, if he told everything truthfully and everything was legit, it's going to pay. It may take some time, but you need to stay on top of this and get all this information submitted. It took 9 months before determined that the client actually should get the payout. And she was thrilled when she got her check for $9,000. Her fiance's family took all of his tools, which mechanics tools, like that's a lot of money. She was left with nothing. She was just really upset and disappointed. And she got the final laugh, I guess. She got $9,000. She was quite pleased, even despite the wait period. So when I stayed on top of that, I stayed in front of it, kind of I explained to her what exactly to expect, straightforward with her. And luckily in this case, paid out, So I would recommend that you stay in front of that to just help your clients kind of get an idea of what to expect.